Right then, Ross. Today we have I'm sure will be stunning bottling from Samaroli, the legendary Italian independent bottlers of a distillery that I don't know a huge amount about, but is one of your
I am quite sad
favourites.
about this distillery.
Right.
So this is a Glenburgie,
Okay.
1995. It's quite interesting because you probably know a lot more about the bottler than me.
Yep.
And I've been drinking a lot of Glenburgie through loads of different avenues. It's one of the Pernod Ricard distilleries. It's a classic Speyside. It's quite an old distillery. Founded in 1810, which is like very early.
Very
That's
old,
what
yeah.
they say. Obviously, 1824 is when people really talk about Speyside whiskey kicking off. And probably best known for being one of the heart malts in Ballantines. I know you like Ballantines.
Ballantines is great.
Yeah.
It's, for me, I hate the word smooth, but it's
Yeah.
just a very clean blend.
Yeah.
And 17 years and up is delicious. I think, when you said classic Speyside,
Yeah.
for me that almost sets alarm bells ringing of it being sweet and smooth and
Yeah.
inoffensive and a bit boring. Is that true of Glenburgie?
It certainly can be. I think it's such I would imagine 90% at least is used for the blending.
Yep.
So only 10% being used for single malts means we're really seeing it in independent bottlings like we are today.
Yep.
So I can't claim that there's a massive consistency in the spirit because of that. Honestly, almost all of it that I've had has been cask strength, unique one-off single casks, like we're getting to try today, which is quite exciting. But what they've done previously is generally to my palate.
Okay, because you don't love big peat monsters, you don't love heavy sherry.
It's a bit more subtle. It's a whiskey that I could drink for breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Yep.
It's very approachable. This one 1995 as well, so it's good age of this whiskey as
For
well.
a long time, I thought anything mid-90s, I was like, it's a bit young. And I thought, actually, we're talking...
Yeah.
It's just me that's getting old.
That's
It's like
it.
25 plus year olds.
We're 29 years ago, that's 2024 now.
Yeah, so this one, as I say, was distilled, was it 1995, bottled by Samaroli in 2023. So that's 28 years, give or take. So it's got a proper age to it.
Yeah.
No mention of cask type that I can see. Bottled for Singapore, which is fun.
It's interesting how we come about these things, and it's good liquid though.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of historic whiskey. I think you'll find that a lot of whiskey drinkers, you get a lot of Glenburgie in the Malt Whiskey Society, and it is a kind of one of these niche but popular drams. And it actually had quite an interesting history where it had one of these rare sets of Lomond stills installed as well.
Right.
Now this might be a little bit specific, but for people that are listening, it's well worth looking up. In the late 1950s, they got these special stills where they could take different cuts from, and so did their sister distillery, Milton Duff. So both in the same portfolio of Pernod Ricard. And then in 1981, dragged back out. So there's also a very rare bottling or rare version of Glenburgie between 58 and 81 called Glen Craig. I've only ever seen one bottle of it, truth be told. But it also matched my expectations of good Glenburgie.
Yeah, in terms of whiskey geekiness, that's
It's
Glen
pretty rare.
Craig.
I've got to admit it's quite niche.
Sure.
But if you do see it, it's well worth trying.
Sure. So this one is just going to be regular, non-weird Lomond still,
This is
Glenburgie, 28 years old.
50.2% as well.
Yeah.
We like single cask whiskey, both of us.
Yeah, I feel like 50,
It's a manageable strength.
yeah.
Like, I think it's one of those things I get accused of adding a lot of water to my whiskey because I do, truth be told. But this I'm looking forward to trying as I think it should be a good drinkable strength.
Sure. Well, as the world's biggest Glenburgie fan, I'll give you the honour
I
of
appreciate it.
opening it up and we can see if it lives up to the hype.
Can you tell me, I honestly, for most of my life, I've never even seen Samaroli bottlings. I think it's something that I imagine is still mostly for the export market, like this bottle is here. Obviously, you know Samaroli quite well. Got a historic reputation.
Yeah, Samaroli, again, talking about whiskey geekiness, it is one that's very well regarded by those who are, very, very much into whiskey.
Screw cap.
Cheap rubbish. Well, honestly.
But I'm really surprised by that.
I don't mind a
so
screw
surprised
cap.
by that.
Yeah, I think we've had bad experiences of older bottlings with corks falling apart. So a screw cap, thumbs up in my book.
Yeah, it's just something different.
Yeah. But Samaroli was Silvano Samaroli, who set up the brand in Italy, kind of before single malts were a real big thing. And he had a legendary palate. So he would visit the distilleries in Scotland, had basically free reign to taste as many casks as he wanted,
Yeah.
and he could pick out the very best ones.
Fascinating being in Italy as well, because it's not, again, a hotter place. You don't think of people enjoying malt whiskey.
Yeah.
Maybe more so nowadays, but back then he must have been one of the first.
I think it's kind of a misconception. I think whiskey's been popular in Italy for a long time. Like you see bottlings of Glengrant from the 70s and 80s and stuff. They love it.
It's certainly the one that stands out to me now. I think it's now owned by Campari. But Glengrant is something that's synonymous with Italy as a country in terms of single malt. This is probably very popular in Italy then. Our Italian fans, hopefully.
Potentially. I think they do tend to like the lighter, sweeter style.
Which I suppose this would kind of work for. This Glenburgie should be in that character.
You mentioned classic Speyside. We'll skip the colour, because they always slag me off for focusing on the colour. We'll give it a quick nose. What do you think? Is it all the hallmarks of an inoffensive...
I'm quite excited. Yeah? This is the kind of whiskey I like. So lots of yellow fruits straight away.
It's very honeyed as well. It's very smooth.
Yeah.
For 50%, it doesn't.
No, you don't get any spirit on the nose whatsoever. Really light and fresh and quite juicy. Cheers. Slàinte
mhath. Very excited to try this and
see what we think.
See what it's all about.
This will be one of the older Glenburgies I've ever had. I mean, it is mostly, you see a lot of kind of 10 to 18 or 10 to 20-year-olds.
I mean, don't want to ruin the surprise for you, but it's so rounded. And I don't know whether, a whiskey of this age, obviously, the argument is it's been in the cask for such a long time, you lose that distillery character, that distillery DNA.
I mean, you can get why blenders would like it.
It's kind of like
we say a blender's dream. That's not to disregard the quality of the malt whiskey. It just feels like what a great base to work off of. That's we're going to say. It doesn't say that's all bourbon, I would assume.
Yeah.
It's just so light and fresh. You could probably do whatever you want with it if you wanted to alter the flavour. Really old kind of retro confectionery as well.
It's got a lovely depth as well. Actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to replicate that without keeping it in the cask for 20 plus years. But no, really rounded. I think all Glenburgie this age is as good as this.
I've had a couple in kind of the late 20s. Thompson Bro's done one recently, which again was spectacular, and they're all almost always cask strength. So I've got to say I'm really impressed. I'm glad it's as good as I hoped it was going to be. I think I'm blown away by the screw cap.
Ignore it. If that ruins the experience.
But I'm it's not changed it at all. I think it's easy for people to think a certain way of whiskey, especially old whiskey, and say it should be presented in a certain way. But actually, the quality of it is not altered whatsoever, even though I was surprised when initially...
And the screw cap works. That performs its job well.
I wonder why we don't see more of it, to be honest.
Practical. But I think in terms of the whiskey, as you say, classic Speyside, which feels like a...
Great bottler, great distillery, and it's worked out. This is really tasty.
Yeah. Does it hold its own against, other classic Speysides like Glenfiddich and Glenlivet?
I would definitely say so. Although it is a smaller brand, Pernod Ricard, of course, or a big company, I think it's actually very similar to that character. I mean, Glenlivet, I suppose, would be the kind of big brother, being owned by the same brand, and I think there's a lot of consistency.
Yeah.
What do you think? Really. Are you a Glenburgie convert?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing not to like about it. I think in this day and age, there's so much whiskey to choose from. Obviously, so many indie bottlers bottling so many amazing single casks. So it's, very much a tick in the book.
Really enjoyed it.
In the box for Glenburgie. Really tasty. Strength, I think, works as well.
Yeah.
It's not a boring, one-dimensional Speyside whiskey.
Well, I think if you're looking to try something that maybe the name doesn't shout out on the shelf, this is it.
Yeah.
It's a great, really, really good expression.
Yeah, lovely dram, and kind of maintains the high reputation that Samaroli have got for producing bottling very, very nice whiskey.
Suggests a good quality of cask as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So great success, and you know what, I'm a convert.
Good. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ross. Cheers.
Cheers.